Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more English story. The Path of the Brave. I used to think bravery was about pushing yourself to the absolute limit, no matter the cost. I thought it was about grinding until your body gave out, your mind turned to static, and your soul felt like a hollow shell. I thought bravery was about proving something to others, to the world, and most of all, to myself. But I was wrong. Bravery isn't about destruction. It's about creation. It's not about tearing yourself down to build something impressive. It's about building yourself up, brick by brick, even when the world feels like it's crumbling around you. This is the story of how I learned that lesson the hard way. The beginning. Chasing validation. It all started in my early 20s. I was fresh out of college, armed with a degree I wasn't sure I even wanted, and a burning desire to prove myself. I had this idea in my head that success was a straight line. Work hard, climb the ladder, and eventually you'll reach the top. Simple, right? Except it wasn't. The ladder felt slippery, and the higher I climbed, the more I realized I wasn't even sure where the top was, but I kept climbing anyway, fueled by a toxic cocktail of fear, insecurity, and the need for validation. I worked insane hours, took on projects I didn't care about, and said yes to everything, even when my gut screamed no. I told myself it was bravery. This is what it takes, I'd say, as I poured another cup of coffee at 2 a.m. This is how you succeed. But deep down, I knew something was off. I was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. And no amount of external validation, praise from my boss, a promotion, a bigger paycheck could fill the void inside me. The worst part? I thought I was alone in this struggle. Everyone around me seemed to have it together. They were climbing their ladders with ease, smiling through the grind, and achieving their goals without breaking a sweat. At least, that's what it looked like on social media. I didn't realize then that we were all playing the same game, wearing the same masks, and hiding the same pain. The breaking point. It all came crashing down one Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my desk, staring at my computer screen, when I suddenly couldn't breathe. My chest tightened, my vision blurred, and my heart raced like it was trying to escape my body. I thought I was having a heart attack. Turns out, it was a panic attack, my first one. I've been running on empty for so long that my body finally said, enough. That moment was a wake-up call. I realized I couldn't keep living like this, chasing success at the expense of my health, my relationships, and my happiness. But I didn't know what to do instead. If I wasn't climbing the ladder, who was I? What was my purpose? I felt lost, like a ship adrift in a stormy sea. The turning point. A different kind of bravery. It was around this time that I met someone who changed everything. Her name was Clara, and she was the complete opposite of me. She was calm, grounded, and radiated a quiet confidence that I couldn't understand. One day, I finally worked up the courage to ask her how she did it, how she seemed so at peace with herself and her life. She smiled and said, I stopped trying to prove myself and started being myself. At first, I didn't get it. What did that even mean? But as we talked more, I began to see the difference between the path I was on and the path she was describing. My path was fueled by fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. Hers was fueled by something else entirely. Love. Love for herself, love for her work, and love for the people around her. Clara didn't chase success. She created it in her own way and on her own terms. She didn't measure her worth by external achievements. She measured it by how aligned she felt with her values and how much joy she brought to her life and others. She wasn't afraid to say no, to set boundaries, or to walk away from things that didn't serve her. And somehow, she was thriving, not in spite of these things, but because of them. Talking to Clara was like seeing color for the first time. I realized there was another way to live, a way that didn't involve destroying myself in the name of success. But embracing that way required a different kind of bravery. It meant letting go of the toxic motivation that had driven me for so long and finding true inspiration instead. The journey, learning to walk the path, letting go wasn't easy. It meant confronting my fears, questioning my beliefs, and redefining what success meant to me. It meant being honest with myself about what I really wanted, not what I thought I should want. And it meant being vulnerable, admitting that I didn't have it all figured out, and asking for help when I needed it. One of the hardest parts was learning to say no. For so long, I'd said yes to everything, afraid that if I didn't, I'd miss out on opportunities or disappoint people. But saying no wasn't about closing doors. It was about opening the right ones. It was about making space for the things that truly mattered to me. Another challenge was learning to be kind to myself. I'd spent so much time beating myself up for not being enough, not smart enough, not successful enough, not perfect enough, that I didn't know how to treat myself with compassion. But slowly, I began to shift my mindset. Instead of focusing on my flaws, I started celebrating my strengths. Instead of dwelling on my mistakes, I started seeing them as opportunities to grow. And perhaps the most important lesson I learned was the power of connection. I realized I wasn't alone in my struggles. So many people were fighting the same battles, wearing the same masks, and hiding the same pain. When I started opening up about my journey, I found a community of people who supported me, encouraged me, and reminded me that I wasn't alone. The path of the brave. Looking back, I can see how far I've come. I'm not the same person I was in my early 20s, thank goodness. I've learned that bravery isn't about pushing yourself to the brink. It's about listening to yourself and honoring what you hear. It's about choosing the path that aligns with your values, even when it's scary or uncertain. And it's about being true to yourself, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. The path of the brave isn't a straight line. It's messy, winding, and full of ups and downs. But it's also beautiful because it's yours. It's the path where you stop chasing someone else's idea of success and start creating your own. It's the path where you stop proving yourself and start being yourself. If there's one piece of advice I could give to anyone struggling with toxic motivation, it's this: you don't have to destroy yourself to create something meaningful. True success isn't about how much you achieve, it's about how much you grow, how much you give, and how much you love. And that's a path worth walking. Final thoughts. Today, I'm still walking the path of the brave. Some days are easier than others. Some days, I still feel the pull of old habits and old fears. But I've learned to recognize those moments and remind myself of what really matters. I've learned to be gentle with myself, to celebrate my progress, and to keep moving forward one step at a time. If you're on a similar journey, know that you're not alone. It's okay to feel lost, to make mistakes, and to take your time. The path of the brave isn't about perfection. It's about progress. And every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward a more authentic, fulfilling, and inspired life. So take a deep breath, trust yourself, and keep walking. The path of the brave is waiting for you. As I continued walking the path of the brave, I began to notice subtle shifts in my life. The weight of constant striving started to lift, replaced by a sense of calm and purpose. I wasn't chasing success anymore. I was creating it, one small, intentional step at a time. And the strangest thing happened. I started to enjoy the journey. I remember the first time I said no to something that didn't align with my values. It was a high-profile project at work, the kind of opportunity one would have jumped at in the past. But this time, I paused. I asked myself, is this what I really want? The answer was no. So, I declined. And you know what? The world didn't end. In fact, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. That small act of bravery, choosing myself over external validation, was a turning point. Over time, I started to rebuild my life on my own terms. I pursued projects that excited me, even if they didn't come with a fancy title or a big paycheck. I spent more time with the people I loved, nurturing relationships that had been neglected during my years of grinding. And I made space for things that brought me joy: reading, painting, hiking, and simply being present in the moment. But the path wasn't always smooth. There were moments of doubt, times when I questioned whether I was doing the right thing. Old habits die hard, and there were days when I felt the pull of toxic motivation creeping back in. On those days, I reminded myself of Clara's words: stop trying to prove yourself and start being yourself. It became my mantra, a guiding light when the road ahead felt uncertain. One of the most profound lessons I learned was the importance of self-compassion. For so long, I'd been my own worst critic, berating myself for every mistake and setback. But I realized that true bravery isn't about being perfect. It's about being human. It's about embracing your flaws, learning from your failures, and treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend. As I practiced self-compassion, I noticed a ripple effect in my life. I became more patient with others, more forgiving of their mistakes, and more open to their struggles. I realized that we're all fighting our own battles, and a little kindness can go a long way. Connection became my greatest source of strength, and I found myself surrounded by a community of people who lifted me up and reminded me of my worth. The moral, what I learned about bravery. Looking back on my journey, I can see how much I've grown. I've learned that bravery isn't about pushing yourself to the brink or proving something to the world. It's about being true to yourself, even when it's hard. It's about choosing the path that aligns with your values, even when it's scary. And it's about treating yourself and others with kindness, even when the world feels harsh. Here are the key lessons I've learned along the way. Bravery is about authenticity, not achievement. True bravery isn't measured by how much you accomplish or how high you climb. It's about being honest with yourself and living in alignment with your values. Toxic motivation destroys. True inspiration builds. Chasing success out of fear or insecurity will only leave you empty. But pursuing your passions with love and purpose will fill your life with meaning and joy. Self-compassion is a superpower. Treating yourself with kindness isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. When you're gentle with yourself, you create space for growth and healing. Connection is everything. You don't have to walk the path alone. Surround yourself with people who support you, challenge you, and remind you of your worth. The path of the brave is yours to create. There's no one-size-fits-all definition of success. Your path is unique to you, and it's up to you to define what it looks like. The light ahead. Today, I'm still walking the path of the brave. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. I've learned to embrace the messiness of life, to celebrate my progress, and to keep moving forward one step at a time. And I've realized that the bravest thing you can do is to be yourself, fully, unapologetically, and authentically. If you're reading this and feeling lost or overwhelmed, know that you're not alone. The path of the brave is open to everyone. And it starts with a single step. It starts with choosing yourself, even when it's hard. It starts with being kind to yourself, even when you make mistakes. And it starts with believing that you are enough, just as you are. So take a deep breath, trust yourself, and take that first step. The path of the brave is waiting for you, and it's more beautiful than you can imagine. Final moral. The moral of this story is simple yet profound. True bravery lies in being yourself, not improving yourself. It's about choosing authenticity over approval, self-compassion over self-criticism, and connection over competition. When you walk the path of the brave, you create a life that's not only successful, but also meaningful, fulfilling, and deeply your own. Remember, you don't have to destroy yourself to create something beautiful. You just have to be brave enough to be yourself. And that, my friend, is the bravest thing of all. I'm so glad you spent this time with me. If you like the story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Take care, and see you next time.